again to Real Talk, Real People. Real People, Real Talk. Either way works for me. It is your girl KT, K10, and I am here today to discuss ALS with my good friend, Rebecca Grimsley. Of course, I know her as Becky Jopper, but that's okay. We go way, way back. We've known each other since high school.
Yeah.
So, Becky's husband has ALS, and he was diagnosed how long ago?
December 2017. So it's
Okay.
been a little over 2 years.
God, it seems like it's been longer
Yeah.
than that. Seems like this has just been going on forever.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it must feel like that to you too. So what can you tell me what ALS is? Because it's I've heard the term. I'm sure a lot of the viewers have heard the term, but I don't really know what it is. I know it's a muscle thing.
Yeah, his neurologist, when he was diagnosed, said that it's like the nervous system and the muscles are being impolite to one another. And,
Okay.
like looking it up, it has to do with the muscles not getting the proper nutrients. It's a neurodegenerative disease, and it causes muscle atrophy, which leads to paralysis. And then the part of you that needs muscles to breathe gets impacted by that, and that's what a lot of people die from. But my husband chose to be on a ventilator, so he's lost the ability to breathe on his own. He probably would have died like a year ago if he didn't. He was trached and intubated, and he has a ventilator, and
No, you hush.
and it does the breathing for him. So now other causes of death are sometimes pneumonia. I've read that kidney failure can become a issue. I'm not sure if it's from medications or.
Okay, so it's usually respiratory or swallowing.
Yeah.
That can also cause them to die.
Yeah, he before he got a feeding tube, October of 2018, he was choking and sputtering a lot on his food. I mean, the choking would terrify me. And finally,
sure.
he looked at me one day and he says, "I'm not going to eat in front of you anymore." And I'm like, "Why? What?" And he says, "Well, 'cause you always go like this." And he was right. I did always go like that. So I would just sort of try to use my peripheral vision. If he looked really scared, or if he stood up and did this, I suppose I would pull out the Heimlich maneuver or something. But
So now you were telling me that because I had brought up that this is the same disease that Stephen Hawking had, and that he had been so long lived, but you said it can impact the longevity. There's a correlation between the longevity and how early in your life you're diagnosed and where it starts in the body. Can you talk about that a little more?
yeah, that's what I read. I read that the first thing I read was that the life expectancy is often 2 to 5 years after diagnosis.
Oh, wow.
But one of the things, there's a lot of people that live longer than that, and one of the things I had read is an advantage is the younger you are when you're diagnosed can impact your chances of longevity, and where it starts. If it starts in your feet, that's supposedly an advantage from what I've read. My husband's started.
That has to work through the body.
Yeah.
Okay.
My husband's there's a bulbar onset which starts up here, and that's the people that can walk and do all kinds of stuff, but their speech and their swallowing and breathing is impacted quicker. So bulbar onset people tend to not live as long.
Boots! Calm down. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, so where did Jim start?
Toward the top, but more to the left side.
And
So
you
his
said
symptoms were in his hands first.
right. You had said that. You noted. You thought he was just being clumsy.
Yeah, he kept dropping our pickles, and I'm like, "What the hell's the matter with you? He broke all our bowls." I was just like, "You gotta stop doing this!" And we didn't know. He had years before, about 5 years ago, he had sepsis.
Okay.
And he was in the hospital for a month and a half. And when he got out, he got better, and then he sort of plateaued and started having problems again. And he thought like the muscle weakness might have had to do with that. And then he started having muscle twitches and cramps, and his hands would clamp shut, and he'd have to like pry it open himself.
I was going to ask you, like, what was it that initially sent him to the doctor to go, okay, this is a serious thing. It's not just me being clumsy.
That was part of it. And for the muscle cramps, they found that his magnesium levels were a little low, and they thought maybe if he took magnesium it would help. And then they recommended tonic water because it has quinine.
Quinine, yeah.
And
tastes awful, by the way. Works wonders on cramps, but tastes terrible.
I like it.
Of course you do.
Of course I do.
Oh my
But
goodness.
but so that didn't really help. So he kept going, and then he was a carpenter, and I think the pivotal moment for him was he was building a shed for somebody, and he couldn't hold the nail to hammer it.
Oh.
Like he kept dropping it.
So more fine motor skills.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's when he really had the gut feeling that something was terribly wrong. And that was September 2017. So that was just 3 months. And by then he was having slurred speech. If he was tired, he would sound like he was drunk or buzzed.
Okay.
And then that progressed, and eventually I was kind of his interpreter. His mom said it was sort of like when you have a baby and only the mom can understand. She said it was like my baby, because I'd say something and people would look at me and I'd repeat it, but I got used to him.
And you two got married just before he lost speech, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He December 2018. We needed a first floor bed and bath. And
2018.
Yeah, is when we got married.
So that's a pretty quick progression from 2017 not being diagnosed or just being diagnosed to unable to speak in 2018. Wow.
Yeah, he really was really hard to understand, I think, in the summer of 2018.
Okay.
I think that's when I was interpreting, and he was choking a bit. He got the feeding tube in October 2018. Not because he needed it with a capital N, but to supplement.
Right.
Because he, couldn't eat a lot because he was just choking and sputtering. And so, yeah, in December 2018, we needed a first floor bed and bath, so I bought a house. And like I said, it's one I couldn't afford. And the minute they accepted the offer, he had this breathing emergency. And he had lost his ability with his hands to... He was doing his own feeding tube feedings. And then he wasn't able to do that, to flip the top and pour it in himself. So I was going home from work, and I would give him his breakfast. I would do some work from home, and then I'd give him lunch, and then I'd go back to work. And I did that, and he texted me that he couldn't breathe. I had stopped for gas on the way back to work. And so I called him, and he said he couldn't breathe. And so I called an ambulance, and I mad dashed back home, and he was crying, and I laughed. I was so relieved that he could breathe enough to cry.
Right.
I don't know what I was expecting, but I was terrified.
Wow.
So we went there, and we were in the ER, and he kept taking these deep breaths, and he was really skinny by then. He looked kind of almost like a Holocaust person.
Yeah.
And he kept trying to smile in the ER. But we found out that they wanted, he was at a crossroads here, and I think he was kind of leaning toward not being on a vent, but then when he had this breathing emergency, it scared him, so he did. And we had been together 8 years, and we wanted to get married while he could still say I do. And he couldn't really say I do, so when she said, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, he said okay. and then she says, when do you want to take this man? I was like, okay.
I guess.
Yeah, so everybody laughed. It was a nice ceremony. I was pushed out in a wheelchair so that I would be on his level.
That's so sweet.
We got married in the hospital chapel. And,
I saw the videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was wearing pajamas because I was like, well, if my man's not going to be dressed up in a suit, I'm not getting dressed up. So I wore pretty pajamas and had a veil. And I was wheeled in, and when I was wheeled in, the nurses were holding him up so that he could stand, so he would be at my level. So it was a
That's
really
sweet.
nice. Yeah, BMC put on a good wedding. They got every poinsettia in the building. They tried to get a bagpiper. And
Aww.
if it weren't for the snowstorm, she would have been there. So,
That's awesome.
and then one of the doctors got us champagne, and both of us, stopped drinking years ago because
Right.
we're alcoholics. And so he gets upstairs, and the nurse says, "Oh, I'm going to open this for you," and he goes like this.
No, that's okay.
And she says, "Oh no, the doctor said it's okay. Just this once, and with your medication." And he couldn't really talk, but finally she got the message. It was sitting there in a wash basin like they have at BMC with ice.
That's funny.
It was really nice.
Well, it's nice. It is. It's sweet.
Yeah.
And since he's come home, I mean, you've had a ramp put in. He has the wheelchair. Did you got the van? Did you get the van?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got the van that allows the loading of the wheelchair. How have you been able to do all of this? I know you are not a wealthy woman.
No, I'm not. Well, the VA paid for the ramp.
Right, because he's a vet.
The VA helped us buy the van. They wrote a prescription for the modification, and they gave us a voucher to pay for a good portion of the van part.
Okay.
So it was manageable for us. I mean, thank God. I mean,
Right.
other people lose their shirts.
I was going to ask that. I know the VA has been helpful, but like if someone isn't a vet and they have something like this, are there organizations and
The ALS Association helps people get ramps.
Okay.
It's low or no cost, but often people still have to come up with like $1,500 which can feel insurmountable.
Yeah, if you're just an average person, that's...
Yeah, and the vans are expensive. They're like $60,000.
And that's before the modifications, right?
No, that's like with the modification.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Alright,
Yeah.
But if you wanted something new, top of the line, you'd pay a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of medications, if any, is it, at this stage in the diagnosis, is it just making Jim as comfortable as possible, or do they have medicines that are supposed to help, elongate his life or make things easier?
No, he was on Radicava. It's an infusion, and that's supposed to increase their lifespan by 30%.
Okay.
But the problem is you have to take it for 6 months before it starts to build up in your system enough to slow the progression. So he started taking it. It's very expensive.
Okay.
And the insurance companies shoot it down.
Okay.
And then you have to appeal. And then they submit. And then by then you've probably lost a couple months.
And is this all state to state, or is this like...
Well, he's
Because he's a vet, that's like federal, isn't it?
Well, this was he was on Medicare at the time, and so they turned him. I think they turned him down initially, and then he appealed, and then they got it. So from the time he was diagnosed in December, he started the infusions in April of 2018, and it's like chemotherapy. You sit in a chair, you get a Mediport.
Oh, okay.
They
And does it take a lot out of him, or does it make him feel better, or?
I've heard a mixed bag of side effects. I think he felt better because he was doing something about it.
Okay.
I think it was as simple as that for him. I think he felt a little less helpless.
Now, I know you're in support groups for people who are taking care of someone with ALS. Jim also had a group that he got started for other people who have ALS. Those are all wonderful. I have a question. You don't have to say one way or the other whether you do, but I know you have experience with other people who also have ALS because of this experience with Jim. Have you heard anything about people using cannabis or cannabinoids to ease any of the symptoms, and has that proved helpful from what you've heard?
From what I've heard,
because I know it can help with like Parkinson's, but this isn't exactly Parkinson's, so.
Yeah, from what I hear, it can help with the muscle twitches and spasms.
Okay.
It can help with the appetite. Sometimes when you're choking, you don't really want to eat.
Yeah.
So it can help with the appetite because you want to keep your weight up because of the wasting.
Right.
It just comes with the territory. So, it's good for that.
Obviously, it doesn't. It's not going to fix the underlying disease, but it can help with some of the symptoms.
Yeah, and I think if you can find a bunch of things that make it this much more bearable,
Go for it.
This adds
absolutely.
up after a while.
Yeah. And some people, they prefer the non, high effect of the CBDs, creams and oils and infusions and things like that, as opposed to actual cannabis.
Yeah, Jim uses a topical thing, and
the CBD. Yeah.
no, it has THC.
Oh,
the
okay.
Lotion.
Okay. And that helps with his jumpingness and his spasms and stuff.
Yeah, it helps with joint pain too. He has from being so.
I may have to ask him where he gets that. I've got some joint pain of my own.
Yeah, just from being so sedentary. Like, I mean, if you sit in a car for a long time and you don't move, your joints feel achy.
Yeah. They make on planes. They encourage you if you're after I think like 2 hours. If you're on a plane, they encourage you to like get up and move around.
Yeah. So it's like that on steroids because he can't move. I have to like.
Oh, so does he have to get the injections for the blood clots because he's always in bed, or does he get like?
I bend him and move him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When he's in the hospital, they give him stuff, but it's a good question. I should ask more about that probably.
It's a learning curve. I mean, it's got to be.
Yeah. But he'll go like this, to his leg, and I'll go and I'll just kind of bend it until. I'll watch his face and I'll bend it till he nods, and then I'll hold the position, and then he'll nod again, and I'll straighten it, and I'm like, do you want it more toward me, and he'll nod, and so we have a thing.
Well, yeah, you kind of have to build a shorthand, I would guess.
Yeah. Oh, but the treatments, and they sometimes do benzos for the muscle spasms too, so like Valium, and then he's on. Pain meds because it's painful.
It is painful.
Yeah, it says everywhere I had read that it wasn't painful. But it seems like everybody in my support group agrees that their loved one is in pain, and Jim's in pain.
Well, it seems like if you're constantly having Charlie horses or muscle cramps, that has woken me up in the middle of the night with just a single one.
I know. I felt those too, and you think this is how it ends.
Yeah, it feels awful.
But he would have those everywhere. His arms.
That's terrible.
Yeah, and you can see his body like reverberating, like pulsating, like.
How are his spirits, like in general? I'm sure you and him both have days where you just want to break down and cry if you don't actually break down and cry.
Yeah.
But overall, how is he? How are you?
I think I never know how to answer that, but I tell people we're doing good considering.
Yeah.
And
that's a realistic answer.
My mom was a career nurse, and she said she's never seen anybody handle what he's going through with the dignity and grace and acceptance that he has, and she's really right. Like he said, I think the worst breakdown I ever saw was, like I said, he was a carpenter. He was very busy with his hands, and he went to do some snow blowing, and sustaining this position for doing our driveway for so long caused his hands to cramp, and he couldn't use them after that. And he just started crying, and he threw his gloves, and that was maybe the worst upset I had seen.
Yeah. So, thank you, Becky, for coming and talking to us, to me today, us, to explain more and give us kind of a first-hand insight as to what this has, done to your family, with your family. I'm not entirely sure. For your family.
Yeah, I mean, it's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I could go on, and then, my experience is so unique. I mean, if you hear about one experience with ALS, you've heard one experience. I mean, it's not a cookie cutter thing.
Right.
It affects everybody differently, and
there were some groups that you wanted to mention that have been helpful to you, and we'll put the links for them in the description below. But
There's been for one thing, there's been some nice support groups on the internet on Facebook.
Okay.
There's one uniquely for spouses that I belong to, spouse caregivers.
Okay.
There's some for people with ALS. There's some for just loved ones, like just a blanket thing. There's one for loved ones and sufferers. Then there's also the ALS Association has call-in groups too, because sometimes we caregivers, we're on house arrest, we can't get out.
Right.
So there's been some good ones.
And then, of course, the people with ALS are housebound
Yeah,
a lot of times. So
sometimes,
toward
yeah.
the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we've received a lot of support from Compassionate Care ALS. They're based out of Cape Cod. I'm not sure what their coverage area is, but they've been a godsend to us.
Okay.
Jim lost the ability to, he used to call me by jacking the volume on the remote, so I would hear the, Judge Judy blaring or something, so I'd go in.
He must want me.
Yeah, but he lost his ability to use his hands, so they got us, ALS Compassionate Care gave us a call button.
Okay.
And when he's unable, he pushes a pillow into it, and when he's not able to do that, he'll be able to press it with his head.
Okay.
So they've done that. They've sent an end-of-life counselor that we meet with twice a week. He's a godsend. I feel like I have a Jedi Master in my midst. He's so wise and smart and awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
And veterans?
Oh, Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Yeah.
They really greased the wheel and helped Jim get his veterans benefits, and they've been a godsend. We would have lost our shirts, and a lot of people lose their shirts.
Yeah.
So I'm really thankful for what we have.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, great, and we will link to the veterans and the Compassionate Care in the Facebook group as well, and you can find more information about it at the ALS organization, also in the description below. Of course, you can always follow me and my social links down below on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course here. Like, subscribe, comment. Always welcome to see those comments and questions. If you have a question about ALS, I will forward it to Becky and have her get back to you via the comment section. And thanks for the support. And until next time, thanks.